All right, so for this first section of Chapter 5, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to have this little animation. I'm going to play for you a few times. I'm going to play for it slowly, and I'm going to ask you guys questions while we're doing it. And I want you to think about these questions. Pause the video after I ask the question. Think about it a little bit. Rewind the video. I'll also send you guys, or I'll also have the link to this animation on the video page as well, so you can mess around and play around with yourself. All right, but first, let's watch this video and let's see. All right, so the first question I want you to ask yourself is those little dots that are then being created. What could we say that each one of those dots are? So we'll start it from the beginning. So this point here, that point there, and that point there. What could we say that they are to each of those sides of the triangle? What could we say that they all are? So all three of these points, what are they all? All right, so let's watch it one more time. So what can we call that point there? What can we call that point there? And what can we call that point there? That they are all what of the sides of the triangle? All right, now look at what happens. So then they create this segment here. All right, and they connected those 2 points. So I want you to think of what could the name for that segment be based on what each of those individual points were that we saw get created. So what could the name of this segment be? I want you to try and think about this before we go into anything. All right, so pause the video and think of a name that you can give that segment. I want you then, we haven't done it. So think of a name that you can put for that segment. Now, what can we say about this blue angle and this blue angle when we have the arc marks that those two angles are congruent? All right, and then look at what happens here. One of those same segments that we had before get dropped down, and another one gets dropped down. So these two orange lines, we can say are what because of these two congruent angles. All right, and then this segment here, the middle one, the one if you can see me tapping it, that segment is what of the bottom segment of the triangle, like in reference to its length. It's double it, half it, 3 times it. All right, so we're going to go through this one more time, and now I'm going to give you some of the answers that we're going through. So at this point, you should have paused the video and tried to think about some of those answers on your own. So all of these points are the midpoints of our triangle. And then this segment that gets created through connecting the 2 midpoints is called, or is referred to as your mid segment. It makes sense. It's a segment that is the midpoint of the 2 sides of your triangles. And then the mid segment is going to be parallel to the side that it does not touch. All right, so this mid segment here that I'm touching now is created through the midpoint of the 2 sides of the triangle. Sorry, I didn't mean to move that. And it is parallel to this side of the triangle that it does not touch. And we know that because of the congruent angles. And the mid segment is 1/2 the length of the side that it does not touch. All right, so that is what section 5.1 is about. We're going to go through and we're going to do a problem now based on that information. All right, so here they don't tell us that anything of the mid segments, but we know that they're the mid segments because this segment's congruent to here, so that means N is the midpoint. Then we know that this segment is congruent to this segment, so that means O is the midpoint. And we know that this segment, JM, is congruent to MK, so that means that M is the midpoint as well. So we know that all 3 of these segments are the mid segments of the triangle. All right. So now we know that our mid segments are parallel to the side of the triangle that they do not touch. We know that it is 1/2 of the length of the side of the triangle that they do not touch. So it says which segment is parallel to JK. So first let's highlight JK. Well, here's J and here is K. All right, so now we need to know which one of the mid segments is parallel to that. Well, since this mid segment NO is the mid segment that does not touch JK, that means that NO, that segment NO, is parallel to segment JK. And since they're parallel, we know that this angle will be congruent to this angle, and this angle will be congruent to this angle based on the corresponding angles postulate. All right, now the next question. It asks, if LK is equal to 46, what is NM? So first, let's highlight LK. Well, here is LK, and here is NM. So NM is the mid segment of our triangle. So, and since LK is the side of the triangle that NM does not touch, that means that NM is equal to 1/2 of LK because our midsegment is half the length of the side of the triangle. So LK is equal to 46, so NM is equal to 1/2 of 46, or NM is equal to 23. So the answer for number 2, NM is equal to 23. All right, then the last thing that they ask us is if JK, so that's this segment here, is equal to 5x plus 20, and NO is equal to 20, what is the value of x? So once again, we know that NO is our midsegment of the triangle. So we know that NO is equal to 1/2 of the side of the triangle that does not touch JK. And now we can substitute in. We know that NO is equal to 20. So 20 is equal to 1/2 of JK, which we know is 5x plus 20. All right, now, since both of these numbers are not even, I would not suggest distributing 1/2 in, but rather get rid of the fraction by multiplying by its reciprocal. And what you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So 1/2 times 2 cancels out, and 2 times 20 is 40. So 40 is equal to 5x plus 20. Then you'll subtract over 20 from both sides, and you'll get that 20 is equal to 5x. Divide each side by 5, and x is equal to 4. So the answer to number 3 is x is equal to 4. All right, that is it for this video, and that's it for this section, and that's it.